Morning. So what you do is you find me at the business end of the studio, which is sitting on the floor at the moment, with various racks behind me, which are in various states of disrepair at the moment. What started out many weeks ago as a simple making room for some new equipment to go into the studio has turned into a fairly major overhaul of the studio, which is culminating in lots of things going on at the moment. So what I did this morning is I thought I might as well show you what sits on the other side. So normally when you see me in the studio, the camera is sort of above here and it's pointing that way, and you're looking at me against this sort of set of keyboards that are in front of me, and you see this set of keyboards that are sitting on the side of me. What you don't normally see is this gubbins that sits over here where the camera normally sits on top of. So I've decided to turn it around today so you can actually see this side of it. And normally these would be full of synthesizer modules, but I've taken the opportunity of, while I'm moving things around, to do a complete studio remodel, which, as I said, what started out as a simple I just need to move a few things around to get some more equipment in here has now turned into a fairly major studio remodel exercise. So, you know, sort of sitting around the side of me here are various studio modules and what have you, that are waiting to go back into the racks, and I've been doing things like, while all the modules are out of the racks, I've been updating the batteries in them, because I normally have a preference when I buy a piece of equipment that I will change the battery pretty much immediately. But there are certain pieces of equipment that are in the studio which I haven't changed the batteries on, and a lot of the rack mount modules that were sitting in here and in here are sort of fallen into that category. I haven't changed the battery on them since I bought them, so I've decided while they're out of the racks I will change the batteries on them. So, you know, we're going through that exercise. I'm also going through the exercise of making sure everything is labelled properly. Now there's my trusty dyno, to put labels on everything properly, so that it makes next time when I start unplugging things, and this is one of the reasons why it's turned into such a major exercise, is when I started unplugging things I didn't quite know what I was unplugging because it wasn't all properly labelled up, which is sort of completely unlike me, but it's just how the studio has organically grown and just needs to be sorted. The other thing I'm doing is I'm running in brand new what do we call it, patch cables. So wiring looms, that's what the word I'm looking for. So putting brand new wiring looms in to get rid of a lot of the excess cables that were on the floor, which is all again about the organic growth of the studio. So there's one of the wiring looms that's just about to go in, all colour coded. So I thought I'd just sort of, you know, this is what my studio looks like the other side of the camera. So what you see is this is one of my racks. Normally this would have, it's got there's an M1 in there at the moment, but normally that would have a D50, a JV280, and the TX81Z used to be in that rack, although the TX81Z is probably going to go into there now. I'm just flipping things around a bit. And then the two brand new A110s are going to go into here, so that sort of like fills that space up. And then yeah, I don't know whether I said I bought a Roland A220. Look, there you go. I can't remember what I said about this. I mean, it's been a couple of weeks since I've done this, and the reason why it has been a couple of weeks is because A, I've had not a lot to say, B, I've been away on business, and that takes up a hell of a lot of time, especially when you're travelling around Europe. So I've been travelling at weekends, so I haven't had a chance to sit down and do this. I haven't had a chance to sit down and play, which is really more annoying to me. But yeah, we're travelling around. Anyway, so that's an A220, and I think I said about the A220 a couple of weeks ago, but I'm just going to sort of recap on this. So what the A220 was is it allows you to manually split a keyboard. So something like a DX7, which is actually the top synthesizer, right up there, that you can see it there, that's my DX7. So something like that, you wouldn't be able to split the keyboard on and send different parts of the portions of the keyboard on different channels. That's where one of these comes in really useful, because this allows you to split the MIDI signal and actually route it onto different channels and different parts of the keyboards, etc. So that's what the 220 is, and I will do something on the 220. Hasn't even been installed yet. You know, it's arrived, but it hasn't been installed. So there you go. I'll put that bit down there. As you can see, there's my Akai sampler. I really like my Akai sampler. I will do some stuff on my Akai sampler. I've got so many things here to do videos on. It's sort of working out where to start, really, because I use a lot. People sort of. Somebody came on the channel the other week and said, you're just a collector. I'm not a collector. I use this stuff. It's all here. It's all out. I mean, I have stuff in storage as well, but it's all here. It gets used. The thing is, in order to use it properly, though, you need to have it installed properly, which obviously means things like, you can't see down here, but there's the sort of MIDI patch bay that I did earlier in the year, and down here is my audio patch bay. In fact, let me see. I could just adjust the camera angle so you can see those. There So there you go, there's the MIDI patch bay, all ready and rocking. There's my audio patch bay, you see. And down the bottom that's my amplifier that I use in the studio, which is a Behringer amplifier, patch panels. Effects processor, which I tend to use with the D50 and the DX7. I don't tend to use it with the Kronos or the Jupiter, but it's quite a useful tool, that one. There's my audio interface, which is Scarlett, Focusrite Scarlett 8i6, which is God, it's probably about 5 years old now, good God. But yeah, still trusty, and that's all plumbed into these patch bays here, so that I don't actually have to go around the back of this stuff. And that's what I mean by when I'm talking about all being available for use, is you don't have to sit and go around the back of this stuff when you want to do something. You can just plug it in. It's also useful when other keyboards, when you take other keyboards and other devices in, because you can just put them on top here and then just run them straight into the patch bay and straight into the MIDI patch bay as well. So for testing and that sort of stuff. So, as I say, I haven't really had a chance to do very much in the last couple of weeks, so I haven't, and this has sort of been sorely neglected to the point where it sort of like looked a bit like a bombed hit, if I'm brutally honest, and I don't want it to look like a bombed hit. So this last couple of days I've been doing a lot of clearing out, a lot of redesign, a lot of paper redesign as well, to make sure I knew what I'm doing. And then I shall start installing, probably this afternoon actually, at least get the keyboard and the sounds up and running. I'm not sure I'm going to get the MIDI all up and running this afternoon, but we'll see where we go. Anyway, a couple of questions came up on the channel, and I'm going to answer them while I'm doing this. One, E86, can you use E86 sounds on a D70? No. Very simple, no. The problem with a lot of these keyboards is the architecture of the actual waveforms that the different keyboards, even though they're by one same manufacturer, they're different. I always go back to using the D series as a prime example of the difference, in that the D50, which was the flagship synthesizer and uses LA synthesis, and the D20, which was sort of supposedly the little brother of the D50, you can't use patches between the two. They're incompatible because of the architecture. And many other synthesizer manufacturers were very much the same. You couldn't use, the sounds that were created for one synthesizer couldn't be used in another. Now they've got a bit smarter as the years have gone on, because on the Kronos you can actually use M1 sounds, and obviously the M1 to the T1 that worked as well. But yeah, the legacy stuff, unfortunately not. You can't, you were sort of tied into that sort of very tight sphere of synthesizer. And and obviously the soft synths came along, and the soft synths made sort of transitioning sounds between different bits easier, but I wouldn't say that it was massively easy. But the answer is no. Sorry, can't do that. The second one is a question on the channel about the... this thing, the DO5. Now I have to admit, I have played with this, but not nearly enough yet. So I'm going to defer answering a lot of questions on this thing until I really have given it a good bash. And I also, the other reason why I wanted to sort of get the studio back up and running is because the second keyboard that's up on this tier behind me that way is my D50, and I wanted to actually play the D50 and the DO5 together, which I haven't done yet. You know I've had this a few weeks now, and I have played with it, but I really haven't given it the sort of the attention it really deserves. Because what little play I've had with the DO5, I have to be honest and say I am seriously impressed with it. It's one of those things where now I'm stuck because I want to integrate this into the studio, and I am sort of kind of struggling to work out how I'm going to do that at the moment. Now, the way that these things either work is that this thing, which is up behind me, which is the drum machine, the TR-08, which again I haven't spent enough quality time with, has a little stand on it like that. All right. So I could get a little stand like that for this, and sort of stand it up at an angle, and then put it on the top here, and then use one of these keyboards here to trigger it all off. I could do that. I have ordered some stands, some stands from the US, which are, I don't know, sort of like come out of there and sort of stand up, so that it will actually stand up like that, and they sort of just push onto the ends of these. See how they work, because I'm sort of struggling. These are, as much as I have a problem with the whole USB and the 3/8 of an inch jacks on these things. There is nothing that says that these things aren't absolutely brilliant at what they do. They are really, if you haven't got a D50 or a Jupiter 8 or a Juno 106 or one of the other pieces of equipment, and they're all getting very expensive to buy now in the second-hand market because of the whole retro feel that's going on with this stuff. These are a very good alternative. I just wish, and I've said this so many times, that Roland would have sorted out the power on these things, because it means that now I've got to power everything. I'm not going to power this stuff by battery, because I end up going through a hell of a lot of batteries for starters. So it's got to be USB powered, and that's the issue I've always had with these. But they are an extremely good alternative to those original keyboards, and the behaviour modelling that they've put into the Boutique and the Aria series, which I probably someone picked me up again on my pronunciation of that, is fantastic. But so I'm going to defer too many videos on this until I've really given it a good sort of working out, and then I'll sort of start jumping into this. I know there's loads of people on the internet who are going about the sort of DO5 and putting videos on there, but really I don't want to put a video on there for something that I'm half baked on, and that's how I feel about this at the moment. Is my knowledge is half baked, so I'm just gonna leave that one to one side for a bit. I have received some more stuff. So my T1, I got some live discs for, and again I haven't even had a chance to stick these into the machine yet. There's one, and there's sort of there's three of those. Look, like three. They came through about 2 weeks ago, and I really haven't had a chance to actually stick them in the Korg and actually have a play with the sounds on them. As is this one here that came through the other day from Sound Source, which was Super R&B. Now that one I heard someone play that, the sounds off that, at least 18 months ago. And I was really quite impressed with the R&B sounds on it. So that was the reason why I went and got it. Now that won't work on this M1, my rack mount, but it will work on that M1 because that is actually a conversion, and it will work on my T1. So I sort of saw that come off the internet, and I did my cheeky bid, got that, and then I got another one here, which is actually that's not for the M1. That's the yeah, that's a cool. That's the yeah. I'm mad. And then that one came up as well, that's a D50 card. That's what's confused me. It's in an M1 pocket. So the guy sent it through in an M1 pocket, but it's actually a D50 card. So, they came through, and I just haven't had a chance to put them in the keyboard yet. So I'll hold fire on those things until I do. Now, the other thing, going back to the D50. So, where my rant originally started from the D50, and I went completely off at tangent, but I'm going to go back to it now, is so in order to get the sound out of this, you can do one of two things. You can plug in a 3/4 of an inch jack into that one there. No, into that one there, sorry, in the middle one. And then plug it into an audio source, into an amp, and you get sounds coming out of it. That's one way. The other way is you can use the USB on this. So plug a USB cable into this, plug it into the back of your computer, and as long as your computer can see the USB channels that have been generated by the D05, you can play the music through the computer. Now, I've so far done this one of two ways. I've done it directly with the computer, and I have also done it through my MX1 mixer. Now, the reason why I did it through the MX1 mixer is because, funny enough, the MX1 mixer actually was easier to actually configure. Don't ask me why, but it was. Although you have to make sure you've got the MX1 mixer on the latest version of the firmware, otherwise it won't recognise this thing. But as long as you do, then it works. And you don't get any distortion or any hum. It's actually a very, very clear, clean signal. Now, somebody got in contact on the channel and said they were seeing distortion on the signal. And I have to be honest and say, I will respond to you directly, but honestly, I'm not seeing any distortion coming from either this or this. And I can't say that anything else about any of the other boutiques because I don't have any of the other boutiques. And it took a long, long time before I actually jumped into the water and bought these two because of my issue with the USB sockets. But now I have bought these and I have played with them. I'm actually seriously considering going and buying some of the others. But there's another story to that as well. So, sorry, I have tried it. It works fine for me. I think it must be your USB interface that's causing you the issues. So my advice would be to go and buy a new one. Yes, go and buy a new one. And the last thing I'm going to sort of say today, which sort of made me chuckle actually, I must admit, when I saw this on as a message on my channel, was somebody said, "Are you Don Muro?" I would love to say I was Don Muro, but I'm not Don Muro. I am, for starters, I'm on the wrong continent. So Don Muro lives, as far as I'm aware, in California. Although I could be wrong, but I think he lives in California. And I live in humble Surrey in England. So we are about 8,000 miles apart, or so much. So so I wish I could say I was Don Muro. However, Don Muro is still alive and he is still producing music. And I have replied in the open on the channel with his web address. So if somebody does want to get in contact with Don Muro, you can. Now, you may have heard me sort of like mention, there's a guy in California called Bruce, who you may see a lot of comments on the channel because he quite often exchanges messages with me on the channel. And he has been in contact with Don Muro. So Don Muro still exists, he's still around, and he's still producing music. So, and for those of you who don't know who Don Muro is, right? Don Muro was the synthesizer king who produced most of the standardized factory songs, probably a lot of the factory sounds, I suspect, on the early Korg synthesizer. I think he did a lot of work on a lot of the synthesizers around the same time. So he worked on the M1, the T1. I think he worked on the D50. But there was a number of synthesizers that came out around that time that had sort of stock factory songs that were written or performed by Don Muro. So that's who Don Muro is. So if you sort of hear, there is a video on the channel where I actually sat and played. You know, well, I'd say played. I mean, I put the cards in and played the factory sounds on them for the stuff that Don Muro did, and so you can go and listen to what he did. It was quite interesting. But he is a bit of a legend, and he's still going strong. Ooh. So anyway, I'm now going to go back to bolting this stuff back together. Hope you've liked seeing this side of the studio. I will actually do another video probably next week when some more of this equipment has made itself back into the shelves in here. Now, the one thing I will do actually while you can see this is this, right? These things here. All right, and you may be wondering what they are, and they're power strips. So each one of these boxes is actually pretty much self-contained, the way my studio is set out. So they have a power strip at the back of the box. Each one of these things plugs into the power strip into the box, and then there's one cable that comes out of this and goes off to the UPS that runs all this stuff. So that's how it all works. Maybe one day I'll do a video around the other side so you can actually see that. Anyway, apologies for not being around for a few weeks. I will try and keep on doing these on a weekly basis, as I was doing before lots of things got in the way, or should I say life just generally got in the way. And I shall see you probably before next week, because I've got other videos I'm going to do today at various times for various different things. But I will definitely see you next week. Bye bye. If you like the contents of this video, please give it a thumbs up. Apparently it helps the channel and allows other people to find this video a lot quicker. I'm sure by now if you didn't like the contents of this video, you've already given me a thumbs down. If you want to be notified about future videos that are added to the channel, hit the subscribe button that should be appearing about here.